Welcome to the Pope's Point of View with your host, Elijah Burke.
Edition of Pope's Point of View. And of course, I am your host of hosts, your God and light, your paragon of virtue, your former NWA World's Television Champion, the Pope, Elijah Burke. And you are listening and, of course, watching the podcast that is indeed known as 45 Minutes of Fire. And we're going to get to that some in just a moment or two. But before you, boy, do allow me to do my due diligence and bring in and on right here, right now. No, guys, I know you're thinking that it's going to be none other than our normal co-host, Polo Del Mar. But Pope's running solo right now because this is our interview series of Pope's Point of View. And I am sitting down and I am adorned in red, and y'all don't see your boy wear red at all, but I wore it for a purpose. I wore it with reason, if you will, because joining me right here, right now, is none other than the Red One herself. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about straight out of your mama's and some of you, your mammy's kitchen. None other than AEW's own Red Velvet. Red, how are you?
I'm so good. That was great. I've been smiling all the time since because I can't stop cheeking. It's always a great time when we sit down. So I can't wait. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, and obviously, I'm so happy that you've found it not robbery to come over here and join your boy in our sit-down interview series that kicked off with Alicia Fox. And just when you think it couldn't get any better, bam, here we are, and we're going to keep this thing going. We're going to keep it rolling. Well, before I start off in this interview and do, if you will, how you been? How's everything going with you?
I've been great. As recently everyone has seen, I just came back from a knee injury that had me out for 9 months, almost a total of a year gone. I finally made my comeback November 8th in Portland. It was great. And then it didn't stop there. I was on a back-to-back. I call it the comeback tour. So it didn't just stop there. It went on. And it's been great. I've been on one hell of a great high of coming back. And I'm just feeling grateful. I'm really happy.
That's very good. And we're so happy to have you back. I'm not biased at all, but you're certainly one of the reasons I tune in to watch. So when it was announced that you would make your return, I know I can't be the only one that was just thrilled. You know what I'm saying? Just thrilled that Red Velvet will be back gracing us with her presence on our television screen. But Red, so do me a little favor here. A lot of people don't know this. I want to know a little bit about your background, your upbringing. A lot of people don't know this, but you're Colombian American, correct?
Yes, I'm correct. Yes, correct. I am Colombian. Both my parents were born in Colombia. My dad was born in Barranquilla, and my mom was born in a tiny, tiny little town called El Carmen de Bolivar. They're both Hispanic. I grew up in a full Latino household. Although on the outside, I'm beautiful and chocolate, it was all Hispanic growing up. I grew up in Miami, Florida, born and raised, lived in Florida my entire life. Until this year, I moved to Texas. I decided just to get up and get away, but always lived in Florida, always been a Miami girl since I was little, and just very, very Latino household. It's very different than what people think because people don't ever assume I'm Hispanic. So It's different. Yeah.
And I mean, and yes, well, I remember the first time, and we're going to talk a little bit about our history in a second, but I just remember the first time that I was around like this, this little black girl, doing her thing. And all of a sudden Velvet went into the other languages that she know. And I'm like, what? So that caught me off guard as well. So, coming up, you got all the things that you may have been involved in. What, were you an athlete coming up? Did you play sports? What type of activities were you involved in?
Growing up, I didn't do sports. My dad and my uncle were boxers. My dad retired. I was too young to remember. It was literally the year I was born. It was his last match here in Miami. Actually, he retired. So he did boxing his entire life. So did my uncle. I didn't start doing activities until like I was 12. My dad put us in MMA strictly because it was me and my sister and my half sister. And he was like, oh, I got a house full of women. I need these girls to know how to defend themselves. So it was mainly for self-defense, just so we can always feel safe if we were by ourselves. I did MMA and boxing when I was 12. I was super tiny, so I never got to fight MMA or boxing because I never, like, when we would show up to the competitions, there wasn't kids that were, even girls that were my same weight class. So I started dancing, and dance was my entire life, pretty much. I think that was the safest route for mom and dad. And I just danced all the way through. I started in middle school. My parents at the time, growing up, didn't have enough money to put me in like private dance classes like everybody had. So when I got to middle school, I had it in like elective, it's free, is included in school. So I was like, okay, I love dance. I'm going to do it this way so I can help save my parents money. I did that all the way till high school. And my high school teacher really, really helped me like get out there. And I ended up going to college on a full scholarship for dance. So I knew my parents didn't have for college. So I was pretty smart. And I was like, I'm going to do something I love and let me just find a way to do it where I can get a scholarship. And I got a full ride. So it was my payoff to them for the hard work that they put in, just trying to get us there. But that changed after, obviously I am not a professional dancer anymore. I did it for a long time after college and all the way until I was really young. I joined a dance company, toured the world.
Hold on. Yeah.
We're bouncing. We're
Yeah,
going
but
farther.
no, let's talk about that. Something specifically that I know that many of the point of viewers who are listening may not know. You competed around the world in dance competitions. Am I correct?
Yes. So when I turned 18, I joined this dance company that my high school teacher knew about because she was in it as well. It was just like performing. You could do parties, conventions, all this stuff. I was the youngest one. I went to try out with my friend. The owner of the company said, the last time I had two 18-year-olds here, they didn't make it. They weren't built for this. So are you going to cry when you're away from home or are you going to be a professional? And I looked at him and I was like, there's only one way to find out. I was like, but I know I'm not a baby crier and I'm ready to do it. So I was going to school at the time as well, but I traveled. We went everywhere. That's when I actually first time got on a plane. Started traveling all over with this company. And it sucks because I was at school at the same time. I was trying to juggle both. I was on full scholarship. So I would go with them to Singapore or Egypt.
Wow.
But yeah, that would have been a great experience. But I was young, so maybe it wasn't my time to experience that yet. I would have maybe been too young to really appreciate it. And school was first. But I did do that. After a while, I was already in my 20s. I stopped dancing with them and I found my dance partner through that company. And we just one day we're all chit-chatting, shooting the shit, drinking and stuff. And I was like, man, like you should open your own entertainment company. Like you have a big group of us, and we're all traveling, we're young, like let's do it. And his name is Rolly. So jokingly, I was like, oh, you should call it like Rolling with the Finest. Like you're always rolling with the top of the finest. And he went with it. And years now, my dance partner owns Rolling with the Finest. It's an entertainment company. I was a part of that for a while. And we danced. We did a lot of pageants. That's why I love Pollo de Mar, because we did a lot of pageants with drag queens and stuff. And just their performances and everything really built up like just my performance aspect, the discipline. I was getting already paid. So you were already a professional. It's completely different. But I left home pretty early at 18, traveling a lot. And one day I walked into the company and I told Rolly, I love dancing with you. I would never change that, but I'm going to go be a professional dancer. And that's where we paused that story. But
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Polo Del Mar, I can assure you, Polo is not going to be happy about this, but he know how it operates. I mean, look, polo is polo, and God knows this is only 45 minutes of fire and then some. So having polo on here, we're talking about 2 hours and 45 minutes of fire, and that's enough. But
yeah,
but certainly to everybody who just heard that, if certainly in the South Florida area, hey man, if you want to become a dancer, yeah, go roll with the finest. Look them up. Yeah, rolling
Yeah,
with the finest.
he's pretty big at helping out now. A couple of us that started out with him, we're older now. We're doing things and I've moved on to wrestle. But if you're in the South Florida area, even if you have events, they do parties. Like he's choreographed quinceañeras for people, like amazing big corporate party events. We've done it all. So they're always on my Instagram. They're really good company to look at, even if you just want them for entertainment. Maybe you don't want to dance, but you need them for a party. They're really good.
Okay, well, we talked about the pausing, and we're going to pause on that note when it comes to that part of your life, because I got to ask, I need to know, the point of viewers want to know, were you a wrestling fan? Because we're going to get to the wrestling. Everybody know why you're here, but were you a wrestling fan growing up? Were you this little petite Colombian putty girl, if you will, just so putty? You sitting at home watching wrestling?
So it was funny how it started, because when I say all my history, I always feel like, not like it gets overshadowed, because my dad was more like the wrestling, the boxing star, and my uncle. But I started watching wrestling with my mom. And I was 9 years old. I'll never forget the moment. I was flipping through the channels with my mom, and we didn't have cable. So it was UPN 33, SmackDown comes on. And at the time, it was just like The Rock and Stone Cold, like beating each other up on the side of the ring. They went into the crowd. Of course, at the time, it was the first time I was tuning in. I didn't know what it was. I'm going to assume it was no disqualification, because they were like just going into the crowd. And I just remember like me and my mom were like with our mouth open, both of us.
Wow.
Like we just looked at each other, and like she didn't switch the channel, nothing. And we watched the whole rest of the show, and it was like these characters and The Rock and Stone Cold and their personalities, and something I'd never seen in my life, because I had grown up around like boxing and stuff, but never like with wrestling came like the entertainment, the show, and I was mesmerized by that. So we watched that week, and then my mom was kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna look and see like when it'll come on again. And we started picking up that it was like on Thursdays. So I was watching with her. She didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was, what it consisted of, but we loved it. And it made us bond. And it just like, we were entertained with just the stories, and it was the Attitude Era. So just the fact that I could, at 9 years old, like bond with my mom, that she could not like allow me to see these things, but she was there to explain if there was something that was inappropriate. But none of that was like ever like, we saw the bra and panties matches, but my mom was never like, oh, that's bad or anything. She was like, it's an entertainment. This is like, it's an entertainment. So I started watching wrestling with my mom, and Lita was with Essa Rios, and he turned on her for the first time. And I was heartbroken, because she was beautiful. She was so athletic, and she was there, and she did the moonsault. He turned on her, but the Hardys came to save her. And that's a moment that stuck with me forever, because they linked up together, and it was great. And I looked at my mom. Lita was wearing this like latex red bodysuit. I looked at my mom, and I was like, she is the so. So I was like, oh my God, can you just make me an outfit just like Lita, just so I can? And she was like, you're not going to wear that out, because obviously it's a little TV, but she made it with like softer material, and it was like a nice little onesie. She made it style. Wow. For me, it was like my Lita onesie. I have to find a picture. I think she still has it, but she let me wear it in the house, not anywhere out there. But that was like the moments I like distinctly remember. And I look now, because as time goes by, you watch wrestling, you grow up, or you don't believe, or you get caught up with life. And that was my life with dance. And to see now that I did exactly what I told my mom at 9 years old that I was going to do. I told her I was going to be a professional wrestler. And I don't think I was even for real at the time. I think I was just mesmerized with WWE and everything that it had, that I told her that. But I guess I must have spoken into existence since then, because the world literally you never know how the world is set up or your story.
And that's very good. That's very good. That's exactly what we oftentimes have to do in life. Amazing backstory that you just gave there, especially talking about your mom and everything. That bonding moment. That is what the world of sports entertainment, wrestling, has done. It has caused families to bond. But what I like about what you said in its totality, to wrap it all up, to sum it all up, is the fact that you said, Red, you have to speak it into existence. You spoke on it, you followed up on it, and here we are. And I'm going to speak on some more things right after this commercial break. Hello, everyone. It's the Pope Elijah Burke, founder and president of the Love Alive charity. I wanted to take this brief moment to share with you my charity's continued humanitarian efforts to positively impact the impoverished communities in and around the greater Jacksonville area. This cannot be possible without your support. If you'd be so kind, please take a moment to visit our website, love-alive.org, to learn more about the charity and its mission. Also, feel free to donate to our 501c3 organization that operates off of the donation of the public, which is you. Whether that be by website or via Cash App, $1 help makes a difference in the lives of others as we continue to positively influence many people by being the change that we wish to see in the world. Guys, that you're watching at home, you are getting an exclusive right here. You're seeing how your boy operates and navigate through the process as we record this double record and sit down interview. And of course, you can hear it on all your podcasting platforms, as well as I continue on forward, moving right now with my guest at this time, Red Velvet. So we're going back live right now, as we are. So Red, we are back from commercial break. And I gotta tell you, very interesting, very compelling backstory that you gave us. But now I need to know, we heard of the bonding moment with mom. We heard of the Hardy and the S.A. Rios turning on Leah and they coming to the rescue, knowing that you probably at times imagine your own self being that damsel in distress. But what and when and how does Red Velvet say, I'm going to do this? This is something. Hold on. Let's back up for a second. It ain't no secret to the world. So let's just put a nip in this and say Steph. Steph determined that she was going to be a professional wrestler. When did that happen?
So, like we said previously, I had told my mom at 9 years old, she says, but life went on. So I grew up. One day, I had reached a very pivotal point in my life with dance, and you're getting older and you go through relationships. I had gone through like a really, in my age, I'm going to say traumatic, because I was so young. You think it's the worst every time, but it was a really bad breakup for me. And it changed my perspective on just life, what I wanted to do next. And I really felt like I was just at a plateau point. Dance was not really satisfying my heart anymore. I just felt stuck. And I turned on the channel, and I always say, like, it's crazy to me one day when I retire and write my story, like just the way it's laid out, because you can't control it. It just happens. And on the TV at that time, it was Daniel Bryan was on TV. That time when I turned on, I had not watched wrestling in years. So he's the first person I turned on, and I was like, okay. And then the segment goes on. And of course, this is not a knock or anything. I worked for AEW. We all grew up watching WWE, AEW. Great company. I love working for them. They weren't around when we were. So I don't want to offend anyone talking about the other company, but it's a part of my past and my career. So just had to put that out there for people. But at the time, Triple H was announcing Tough Enough. I just clicked on the channel, and he said, you don't need any wrestling experience. You just have to be tough. We need tough people. We want tough people. And I just kind of started tuning in back to wrestling again. And I was like, man, like, like, why did I stop watching this? Like, when did I stop watching this? Because I didn't even remember when it just faded out of my life. And as soon as I turned on the TV again, it was just like calling me. So I just kept watching and tuning in, and they were so adamant about like looking for people. And you just have to do a video. You look like, do you something?
I'm excited. Go ahead.
So fast forward, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna send this video. I'm tough enough. Like, I watch wrestling. I know what it's like. I've been on the road since I was 18, so I know what that feels like. Okay, like, I really was like, I could do this. They said I didn't need wrestling experience, so I was like, that's my in right there. I filmed the video. I was like, okay, I know nothing really about like the wrestling world, how to get in training, anything. So I went over to my friend's house who were wrestling fans. That's something we bonded about later in our years. And I went over to him and I was like, we need to film this. And I'm just going to throw on this outfit, like, and you help me because you watched wrestling since you were little. So you're going to be honest if it's bad or whatnot. I had just changed my hair. My hair was like super, super red. I had gone through a breakup. So, girl changes. Here we go. Hair's super, super red. And I was like, okay, from what I remember about wrestling, like, I need to have some sort of like, if I want to stick out, like, Stephanie ain't gonna cut it. Like, and we have Stephanie McMahon right there. No, it's not gonna cut it. Let me come up with something. So I told my friend, like, oh, my friends joke about my alter ego being Red Violet. Do you think I should use that for a name? And he was like, that's corny and it's never gonna stick. He's like, I've watched wrestling for years. Like, you have The Rock and you have these people. He's like, Red Violet, that doesn't even know. And I was like, all right, well, what do you got? And he was like, your hair is super, super bloodshot red. You have beautiful chocolate skin. Your smile, you're so beautiful. You're sweet. He's like, just let's just go with Red Velvet. Who says that's gonna be your gimmick like forever? But like, let's just go with it for the video. You look great, whatever. And that's how Red Velvet was born. So I do this video, which I'll find it back and just to get everyone to laugh, I'm gonna repost it again. So I did the Tough Enough video. I'm tough. I've been in the other stuff, and then per week is going, and they show these little spits of like people's auditions on SmackDown. So I start getting text messages, and people are like, "Oh, your audition tape was on SmackDown! Oh my god!" People are reposting it. It gets all this hype. I get a call from the casting agent, and everything I say is a life experience. So my parents always winged it. They didn't know about entertainment. They didn't know anything. I do the casting. She like loves everything about me. And she's like, okay, can you send me a couple like 8x10s? I had never taken professional pictures in my life, except for like the nice dance ones in high school that don't count. I didn't know about a headshot. I didn't know about anything. I kid you not. I probably sent that lady like my cutest MySpace pictures. Probably reason why I didn't make it on the show. In hindsight now, I'm like, okay, I didn't have anyone to guide me on that aspect. I didn't get on the show.
Well, pause for a second. So you didn't get on the show, but had you made it onto the show, Red, and you were asked who or what was your favorite match of all time, what would that have been? And you better not say Alicia Fox and Melina.
Favorite match of all time. Oh my god, that was a hard one because
at that time, not now, but at that time.
Yeah. Oof. At that time, when I went to do the audition, I hadn't watched wrestling, so I would have to take something from my past. And to me, it was, I don't have a dead set match that I can put right now.
That's what we do here at Post Point of View. We put you on the spot, baby.
Yeah.
We put you on the spot.
I'm trying to think because I always remember the first moment when I saw wrestling, and that was Austin and The Rock. But I think what held me at the time was like the feud with the Hardys and Edge and Christian. Like, it was intense. And it was just like, it was more than the ring. It was like personal. It was the back. It was just like, nothing mattered when you were watching them and just at that time and wrestling. And that's my goal, fast forwarding, to be that for somebody in the future, like leave moments that people never forget about.
Amen.
Because when you ask someone why they started wrestling, it's always a moment. It's always something that made them feel something. But fast forward, so I didn't get on the show, and it just got a lot of buzz. And then I thought to myself, okay, I didn't get on the show, but when one door closes, another one opens. So I was like, this is obviously a sign that there was something special about me if I was even thought to be put to the first round of castings. But I was like, let me do some research. And I was like, I have no idea how you become a wrestler. I've only been a fan. I never knew about training school. I didn't do anything. And I started doing my research. So I was like, what am I willing to do to really make this dream come true? And I'm a Gemini, so I firmly believe that, and I can see it in just how I am. I'm very like handsy. I have to move. I have to dance. I have to do something physical. If I just sit, it's too much for my body. So dance was already hitting a plateau. So the instant thought of just exploring something that was from my past that I kind of knew, that I kind of loved and was new and fresh, I was like, I'm going all in, because I don't believe in going half and half. With dance, I went all in. I put my all, and that's all as much as I got out of it. And it was time to move on. So with wrestling, I was like, I'm going all in. I searched. I was willing to move to Orlando because at the time, the only school was Team 3D. That was the only thing close enough to where I was like, I could probably pinch some pennies, get a job there, and like move. I then start searching like Miami, Florida, and La Rosa comes up. So she had a school, but I believe she closed it down, and she was just like, she had like a Facebook page. I hit her up. I said, hey, like, I'm interested in wrestling. And she was training at a MMA gym. We put messages, whatever, we linked up for the first time. I kid you not, on my first day to wrestling training, I was going to make a U-turn, and some guy was coming at full speed in a scooter. He hit my car. I got into a car accident. It was like,
oh no,
I was super late. La Rosa ran like down the block to come find me. I was like, I have to call the cops. Like, all in all, we still started training. And that was in June of 2015, I want to say. She went off to Japan. She got hurt. So
wait, hold on. Let's back up for a second. That's interesting. That's just interesting for me. Just because of the commitment aspect. And I want to know where your head was. How was your mind? Were you actually, your first day of training, you get in an accident, guy runs into your car with a scooter, you got to call the police, and you still had the mindset to go in and focus on training?
Oh, absolutely. My first thought was, as soon as I heard the hit and everything, a bunch of people came out in the neighborhood, and I guess he was from the neighborhood. So I was just like, hey, like, I just got this car. Like, I don't want to have to call the cops on you. I really don't. But like, I have to, because all this stuff. He said to me, like, no, I don't have a license. I can see the panic. So I assumed he had done or had some sort of record, because he was very adamant of like leaving, whatnot. He ended up leaving. Cops came, searched up his information. They had a warrant out for his arrest. The cops said to me, would you like us to arrest him now? Or I was like, that's a problem for another day. I need to get to wrestling training. It's my first day of wrestling training. I said, you do what you want with the information. I need my report of my car for my insurance, and I got to go. And I still went to training. I just was like, okay, he's safe. He was fine. But that was like, when I want something, I'm like tunnel vision. And then it gets funnier once I tell you the story of like, once I got to real training school, because we did like a couple weeks, and she taught me like the basics and the international and all the basics up until she left to Japan and then got hurt. So I never really, and we didn't do anything because we were at an MMA gym. So it was like flat. I learned all my bumps flat. They were not in a ring. They were in like a cheerleading mat. So I think that built character too.
That's great. Yeah.
Like raw. And I was like, okay, I'm digging this. Like, it's new, you know. I always go into things that I want to do if I don't know about them. Like, I'm a student. I ask questions. I never overstep boundaries because I don't know anything. So whatever she was telling me, I trusted with my gut that she was leading me the correct way, because I never knew that business from that side. You can watch wrestling, but you have to know that there's a respect once you go over the barricade. So it was an experience, and I was open to it. I was like, okay, we're bumping on these mats. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, ow, that hurts my back. No, I just was like, what would my dad think? My dad would be very disappointed if I was over here complaining when he was, you know, did this his entire life. But then she went to Japan and she got hurt, unfortunately. And she said, I can no longer train you for now. It wouldn't be fair to you. And she gave me JB Cool's information. You know JB, other people don't know JB, but JB is my trainer. I say my second trainer because I always give respect to La Rosa. She gave me my first bump. So JB trained me at Fighting Evolution Wrestling in Miami, Florida. He had just opened up a school. She said, here's his information. here's a guy that I trust. Go with him to this show. You'll meet JB. I sat there. I watched the entire independent show. Didn't say anything. I sat down with JB. He said he was opening a school. I went to his grand opening. Everything was fine. I was tiny. I mean, I'm tiny now, but I was tiny when I started. This was 2015. I probably weighed soaking wet, I want to say like 95 pounds. I walk into wrestling and he's like, okay, you know, La Rosa said this, blah, blah. He laughs about it all the time. He said that the look on my face when I took a first bump, like in the actual ring, he didn't think I was going to come back. He was like, there's no way, she's so tiny, whatever. The next day I came back. And then the following week I came back. And then the following month I came back. And then I never left. So he knew right then and there that, like, I told him, like, this isn't a hobby. Like, I'm looking to do this for the rest of my life. I watch wrestling. And he gave me a little bit of a test. He asked me people, moves and stuff. He wanted to see if I was really just a fan jumping right in the ring or had I watched it, analyzed it. And yeah, I went to wrestling 5 days a week. I would do privates on Saturdays if I could. And I made sure I got a job that was, I knew that if I wanted to put my all into it, I had to adjust things within my favor. There's people that say they've lived out of their car, and I respect that. I didn't want that. So I was like, I'm going to find the most smartest way for me to still have a job to supply this, to get myself going. And I got a job. I used to work overnights. So I knew if I worked overnights, I'd have like the whole rest of the day, kind of the nighttime to train. I got really good at my job at check cashing to where I was more of an asset for them. So I told them, I'm loyal and I will stay here until I get signed, but I'm going to get signed. And when I get signed will be the day I leave this company. But till then, I promise you that I will be here as long as you guys always find a way to help me out to do my independent shows. And the general manager knew that.
And before you even get signed, there's something else that got to happen throughout the process. And we're going to get to that right after this commercial break. Hello, everyone. It's the Pope Elijah Burke, founder and president of the Love Alive charity. I wanted to take this brief moment to share with you my charity's continued humanitarian efforts to positively impact the impoverished communities in and around the greater Jacksonville area. This cannot be possible without your support. If you'd be so kind, please take a moment to visit our website, love-alive.org, to learn more about the charity and its mission. Also, feel free to donate to our 501c3 organization that operates off of the donation of the public, which is you. Whether that be by website or via Cash App, $1 help makes a difference in the lives of others as we continue to positively influence many people by being the change that we wish to see in the world. Back, it's your boy Pope, and I'm sitting here in this sit-down interview with our girl, my girl, if you will. And yes, I got a ton of history with her, and we'll get to that in a moment or two. But Red Velvet, and she has, as you guys know, she's given us so much information, and we're having such a great time sitting here. I know I am conversing with you, but man, you talked about your loyalty to FEW. Shout out to JB Cool, Fighting Evolution Wrestling in Miami, Florida, who has trained many of people, who has helped so many people that you're watching right now across all social media platforms. So I want to give him a shout out. But Velvet, you talked about, hey, I'm going to be here, but know that when that time comes, I got to move on. I got to do what I got to do. But before any of that can even happen, you got to have a first match. And I think you know where I'm going with this. Tell us about it.
First match, it was great.
2016, correct?
2016, March 24, 2016, which later I'll tie in, I guess, how I always say my life is just one big stir. Everything adds up always. But March 24, 2016, I'd only been training for 2 months. But somebody's training of 2 months when they go to practice 1 day a week was different than me going to practice 6 days a week for 2 months.
Yeah.
JB, I guess, felt I had earned, not to say like, here you go, you're going to be a professional, but I think he wanted to put me to the test. Could I hang in a first match? So he tells me, I have a surprise for you. I do this for my students when they work hard. Mm-hmm. And he says, you're going to wrestle TNA's Rebel. So I was like, okay, great. First, I'm intimidated. I said, oh, someone from TV. Second, I was like, I'm excited. This is my first ever match. Like I told everybody, I had a ton of family there, but you never forget your first match. And I think I knew that it was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life because I was nervous, but not ever nervous to where I doubted what I could do. I was just like anxious for the day to come. So we're doing show day comes, and referee is none other than Pope Elijah Burke, who I'd never met, and was like, okay, he was like, I will be here with you through every step of the way. I'm going to be the referee. I'm here for you. I'm here for Rebel. And I think maybe that's also what added the comfort. Like I knew no matter what, Rebel had my back, you had my back, and that it was just going to be a great moment. And that was one of my funnest matches. Like I think also because you go into it so vulnerable with your first match that you give control to everyone else. That's when it's the funnest.
That's also when it's the easiest for a lot of my aspiring wrestlers and even some of the guys that are breaking in right now, when you can go in the ring and you can be led and you just follow, and I like to use that term with you, Velvet, because you are a dancer by trade, if you will, something that you're very familiar with. So you know the importance of following and you know the importance of leading. So here Pope comes walking in, man, and JB tells me I'm going to be the special referee for this match, and I see this little old thing over here, and I'm like, oh my, like she's wrestling. It's like, yeah, man. He's like, tell me what you think about it, and blah blah. But Red, let me say this: I didn't even know you had 2 months. Now I knew you were green because me and JB, we talk. I helped JB train down there, so I knew you were green, but I didn't know you were that green. I didn't know you had 2 months in only. So that's a news flash for me. But at the same time, I do want to say this, because as you said, you were vulnerable. You were just, all you had to do was go in there and meet what you were met with as far as the moves, reacting, responding, and just follow and listen. And no one would have guessed by watching that you were 2 months in, because you did a hell of a job.
Thank you.
I think I told you after that, I was so proud of you.
It was a great day. There was so many just legends and people, hindsight looking, that I see where I'm at now and have crossed them again. And like the only person, which is funny because I see him in all these signings, but it's always so busy and I never get the chance to stop and let him know. That match afterwards, I ran into Ron Simmons. He was at that show. And he said to me, like, how long have you been wrestling? And I was like, 2 months. And his jaw dropped.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you just keep pushing and like, you're going to do great. And I remember at the time, 2 months in, I didn't know. He was like, man, if you can get me a tape of yourself and like what you do best. Never put the tape in his hands. But it's crazy fast forward now that I've never gotten the chance to tell him, like, your words were never put to waste, because I followed through, and just committed, because a lot of people come up to people and say like, hey, I want to be a wrestler and stuff. And it's very rare, but it's very humbling when the time comes around and they see that person and that person put in the time. So I haven't gotten to personally see him yet and tell him, but he was one of them.
Let me say this then, especially for the Pope point of viewers, if you're out there, be sure to clip this, especially for those of you who go to conventions or whatnot. Be sure to clip this and hold it in your phone so you can show this to Ron Simmons. And then Red Velvet, when your time comes where that moment actually happens, where y'all are in the same building, same location, give someone the phone and say, follow me, and let them record that moment. Because for me, that's going to be a very special and touching moment for you.
Oh, of course. And even just him believing in me, just with how early it was on, that show was one I'll never forget. There was so much talent in the locker room, and it was very humbling for me to even have been on the card with those people, because some people don't even get that for their first match. So I was very spoiled, but I had to say I put in the work. I worked my butt off to be there, and I was nothing but grateful. I didn't expect no paycheck that day. I was just grateful to be there, to be a part of the show, to have my family see it for the first time, and the rest has been. My mom was there. My mom has been to every
love your mom
independent show if she could in Florida. So she hated Pope.
We'll get there possibly, probably. But let me say this. Every single time, and I've shared this in the stories, I even tagged you, and I'll probably share it again when we promote this. But every time that Pope was in town and assisting in the training process, the first person, now, I don't want you guys to get this twisted. Just because she's a cute little bumblebee of sorts, in another world, she might be a ladybug. In another world, she might be a praying mantis, a man eater. But nonetheless, she's a man eater. But anywho, that might go over some people's head. Hell song is that, Pope? But let me say this. Every single time I got in the ring and I asked for a volunteer, I want you guys to know Red Velvet was always the first person to hop in the ring. That right there is a true, surefire sign of someone who is in their mindset, they're going to achieve whatever it is they set out to achieve. That's the sign of someone who, against all odds, I mean, she's the smallest thing in the room. She's never afraid of the moment. And we're going to talk about some big moments here coming up, but she's never afraid of the moment. She's never afraid of the obstacle, and she's always willing to push herself. And let me tell you something, I don't care how much in shape she is and how much younger she is, but she fit. Listen, I had this girl doing this drill with me to this point. We just doing this exercise drill, and then got to a point where Velvet couldn't get up no more. She just rolled to complete the obstacle, the task. She just rolled, drop down. I'm just going to roll. But that's what I mean. She pushed and exerted herself beyond her own physical capabilities in that moment. But look at the payoff now.
Oh, we got a guest.
That's not the payoff, but I'm sure that's a great payoff to have nonetheless. But so look at you now, Velvet, because as we know, you would go on, and I'm gonna talk about one particular moment because you just brought it up about mom. I want to talk about this before we move on into the professional side of things. So you have now become a staple in Fight and Evolution Wrestling. You went on to become their Flair's champion. That's the women's champion in Fight. And let me tell you guys something. She, before even ascending in the world of professional wrestling to the point of where she is now, she was a star. She was a bona fide draw for these shows. Always had to be on the poster. Always, even now, always promoted because people literally want to come out to see her. We're going to talk about Pope charity shows coming up, but every time I've had a show and Red Velvet was not there, people will ask, where's Red? Where's Red Velvet? What happened? And it's more than just because of what she provides in the ring, but it's just because she is just a positive force of energy to be around. So speaking about positive force of energy, well, there was a time where
it's one of my favorite moments. My mom hates it, but I think it was a life-changing moment for me, but I'll let you take that one.
Oh, well, okay. I was going to pass it to you, but there's a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You want my version.
Yeah, let's do a tag team on it then. There was a time where Red was dealing with a little setback, and she had a little brace on her knee, and she came out in front of this, probably our biggest audience that we ever had in Fight and Evolution Wrestling. And she basically came out to tell the fans that she wouldn't be able to perform. She'll be out of action, for a minimum amount of time. And her mom was in the audience. Take it away, Red.
So I remember JB gave me the microphone and he said, all right, this is where you learn. He's like, I'm not going to give you words. I'm not going to give you what to say, but you just have to let the crowd know your situation and speak from the heart. And he says, I'll give you a tip. If you really want to speak from the heart, just look at your mom. And he knows how important my mom is to me. So I was like, okay, whatever. It all dawned on me that I wasn't going to be able to go on and really wrestle. It wasn't like it right as I was going to go through the curtain, I was like, oh, wait, this is like real. I really can't. And the music hit and I start walking down and I just took one glance at my mom and I couldn't hold the tears. So I had a great moment telling everybody that it wasn't great telling them I couldn't wrestle, but it was a very personal moment. And I'm looking at them. I'm apologizing to my mom because she came to the show and here Q hits Pope's music and JB's music because they were a tag team called Cool Pimpin' and they were the bad guys of the group. So they decide that they're going to come over here and rain on Red Velvet's parade on this sentimental moment. And basically, this is part of the show, guys. This has nothing to do with men hitting women. It was a great segment. So to the haters, we're not doing that. It was a great segment, but basically JB tells my mom that you need to come get your little BITCH and get her out of here. And then Pope comes and he gives me the finger and I just slapped him the first time. And then I go, no, I slapped JB the first time because he disrespected me.
You slapped
and then I go to slap Pope and he grabs me by the hand and they conjointly basically like took me out by my knee. My mom hates that moment. She's like, I don't understand why they had to call you a BITCH and all this stuff. But I was like, Mom, it was a moment and you'll never forget it. And
exactly.
The point was for them to get hated. And I was liked and it was great. And my mom hates it. But in all reality, she loves it because she knows obviously all the history that we all have, but she hated that moment. It was a great moment.
That moment was one of the, again, using the word great, and I'm just going to piggyback off of it. It was probably the greatest angle that we had ever done in Fighting Evolution Wrestling. When that moment happened, there were people that were legitimately pissed. And I'm going to tell you guys why they were pissed. They were pissed because JB Cool, y'all know the Ric Flair, knee chop or chop block. And bro, here you got this little bitty thing out here. She's on crutches. She got the, the knee brace cast thingy on. She can barely stand. And when she went to slap me and I grabbed her hand, just to give you guys a visualization of it, JB Cool came right. Yeah, I had to grab that because she was coming to slap me for real. But JB, he took her leg out. And when he took her out, the place went crazy. But guys, I hope you don't go crazy. I'm going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk the professional side. Hello, everyone. It's the Pope Elijah Burke, founder and president of the Love Alive charity. I wanted to take this brief moment to share with you my charity's continued humanitarian efforts to positively impact the impoverished communities in and around the greater Jacksonville area. This cannot be possible without your support. If you'd be so kind, please take a moment to visit our website, love-alive.org, to learn more about the charity and its mission. Also, feel free to donate to our 501c3 organization that operates off of the donation of the public, which is you. Whether that be by website or via Cash App, $1 help makes a difference in the lives of others as we continue to positively influence many people by being the change that we wish to see in the world. And we're back out of break. And when I said that we were going to talk the professional side, let me be very clear. All of it's professional, but we often categorize not being in the big leagues or on television. We categorize it as indie versus professional. Okay, so that's what I meant by that. So Red Velvet, you're moving, you're having fun, you're making strides, man. I mean, one after the next. And one thing I love about you, and I love about you, you've never regressed. You've only progressed. And that says a lot. Because yes, I don't mean to, Polo Del Mar likes to say, well, there's Popey Horowitz patting himself on the back, but I stick my chest out just a little bit every time I see you, with what minimum part I played in helping you along the way,
Not minimal.
I'm just, I don't want to, but yeah, I'm very, I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure I'll talk about that in a little bit and probably be a lot more emotional when I jump into my own feelings. But all of a sudden, something happens. Somehow, some way, folk have taken notice to you, and not only have they taken notice to you, they've said, this right here is a star, because we know that at some point you were contacted, you were brought in the AEW, and then the rest is kind of history. But can you take us through that process? What happened? Who called you? How did you get contacted? What the hell? Like, what happened?
So I'll try to wrap it up. Yep. Before the pandemic came, I'm a big empath. So I think that's what helped me with dance and getting my feelings on, why I'm very expressive just in general. So at that point, again, I felt like my life had taken a plateau, even with wrestling. I was building a name for myself, but I was just in the East Coast. So I just felt like I didn't know how I was going to get to the West Coast because people didn't know who I was. So sometimes they weren't giving me the opportunity. And I really was like, man, like something needs to change and I don't know where or how. So I love her to death because she is one of my best friends now, but this flyer comes up of Kylan and she was having a dark match on AEW. And at the time, I always felt like, I don't know if I ever felt like I stood a chance for AEW, because I was under the impression that maybe like the top of the independent circuits were going to be like the first ones lined up. I was like, wow, like the chance for me to try to get like a tryout or something, like I just don't know when that would happen. I spoke with my wrestling dad and I was just like, I don't know what I have to do. I know I could do it. Like, I just need the opportunity. So he said, okay, well, I'll call you back because I have some people I know and some people I've done some stuff for, and maybe they can help me out. So I guess he spoke with someone, and on my birthday, I got an email from QT. So how that happened will stay between them, I guess, how they figure it out. But he got me the contact. He asked me if I can come for doing extra work. It was the first time I was ever going to do extra work in a big company. So my head's already like, oh my God. I go straight to JV school. I said, hey, I got to get in the ring. Like, I'm going to go up to Jacksonville. I'm going to do extra work. I don't know what they're going to have me do, but like, I need to make the most out of this moment. So he's like, all right, cool. Well, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. I got you. Here you go. He set me up, rent a car, hotel. So I didn't have to, because we had to pay our way to get there. He helped me out. He helped me get a hotel, rent a car. We get there the first day. I'm dressed nice. And he's like, cherish this moment. Like, think about it. We get to practice and the girls are like coming into the ring. We're practicing with Dustin. They let us do practice at that time if you were an extra. And I don't know. I just knew that I had to get in the ring. And I was like, all I need is a moment. All I need is someone to really pay attention and just look. So I start running the ropes, and within seconds, like, Brandy comes up into the ring to start training. And she's like, hey, I have a match with you tonight. And I was like looking kind of behind me. And she's like, no, I'm talking to you. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So it was me and Kenzie Page, and we were tagging against Allie and Brandy. And everyone's first reaction is like, Brandy's a big person in this company. Like, don't hurt her. Like, you want to make sure you get a job here. And like, that was not my concern. Like, my concern was like, I know I'm not going to hurt her because I'm that, confident in my skills and my training. But I was like, I'm going to make her, like, she's not going to forget this match. I'm going to make it a moment. I'm going to make them look great, make me look great. And I just was very like, went into it like, I just need an opportunity to be seen. I worked my butt off. I didn't argue with anyone. I said yes to whatever was needed of me. And I was 0-10. 0-10. I just the first time I got it, I was like, great. I just need to come back. The second time I came back, I got a singles match. I said, this is great. And I think every time I never was like, it's about winning or losing. I said, no, it's about making a statement. Right. It's about showing that I can be put in the ring with anybody and I can go with anybody regardless of their training, my training, how much better they are, how much better I am. I can go with anyone and have a great showing. And they kept throwing people at me. And I was 0-10. And then I got my first victory. And then everything just started developing with the partnership with Brandy and Cody. And he said to me one day, I was super lost. He said, I didn't know what he was talking about, but he's like, there's big things coming for you. And in hindsight now, it was the match coming with Shaq. I didn't know that because I wasn't with his wife. I didn't know she was pregnant. Only they knew that. So I guess that's how everything played out. And it's a crazy thing because it was a beautiful blessing for her to be pregnant and have a baby, but it was the biggest blessing for my career. It was the first time that two women were going to be in the ring and nobody knew who we were. So no one had a choice but to pay attention. So
hold on, because we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves on that particular note. What I want to do right here, guys, I want to just encourage you guys. Normally, I'll take a pause for the call stationary identification, but I want you guys to take a moment, head over to love-live.org. I want you guys to find out what your boy is doing when I'm not sitting here talking to Red Velvet or any of our other guests along with Polo Del Mar. I want you to see how we're taking care of the community. I want you to see how we're feeding, how we're clothing, and the list goes on in Jacksonville, Florida, as we got a huge event coming up, our huge annual event where we do just that. It's called Love Drives. We feed, we clothe, and we assist the homeless community in and around Jacksonville, Florida. And guys, I want to also let you know that our huge Duval Brawl 6 event is indeed happening on January the 6th, 7 o'clock at the Murray Hill Baptist Church Gymnasium. Be sure to head to love-live.org. You'll find out all of the information right there. And guys, you can get your tickets by donating to the Love Alive charity. You can do that via the website, or you can do that at Cash App, $ the Love Alive charity. Now, guys, here's the kicker. Unfortunately, as I like to tell Polo when we're here, and I can't hush Polo up, it's that time. Yeah, what do you mean, Pope, it's that time? Well, this, folk, is called a cliffhanger. So we want to make sure you come back because we're going to talk about this signing, this huge matchup that Red Velvet is poised to have in the biggest moment of her career. You come back, join us next week for this very moment as Pope and Red Velvet Part 2 continues. But right now, Red, it's that time. You say, what time is it?
What time is it?
It's that time where we must turn ship and set sail in the opposite direction. So for the deacon to the guy like Alicon Khan Man House, for the primitive one Red, for Polo Del Mar, I am your host of hosts, your guy like your paragon of virtue, your former NWA World's Television Champion, the Pope, Elijah Burke, saying, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and always remember, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you.